Hello, my name is Chris Thomas, and I'm a composer for film, television, and for theme parks. So what I do for a living is make music magically appear out of nowhere, kind of like this. See? Normally, I would be telling you the 5 things I wish somebody told me when I first started out. But today I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to tell you the 5 worst pieces of advice somebody ever gave me. I feel like the best lessons I've ever learned were from the worst disasters of my career. So here they are, the 5 top untruths for your career. Okay, now for untruth number 1. You don't have what it takes. So when I left my college years, I was so discouraged by the opinions of the faculty who were teaching me to write music that I stopped composing for over a year, and I almost missed out on everything wonderful that was about to happen in my life. And so when I finally did move to Los Angeles to start in film music, not only did I realize I did have enough talent to make it in this industry, but I was surprisingly good at other things I didn't expect to be good at. So what did I learn? Well, that I guess it's easy for people in high up, safe places to tell you what you can and can't do. But the truth is, only you can discover this for yourself. So my lesson for you is don't let other people's opinions hold you back. Now for untruth number 2, follow trends. It's common knowledge among musicians that you should follow the hottest, freshest new trends in music and try to conform yourself around them. Well, the idea is you're going to do this and be rewarded with acceptance and demand for your talent. But what really happens is as you begin to blend in with everybody else, you get swept into this dangerous current of mass invisibility. And suddenly you'll find that you're replaceable by the next person who can sound just like you. And the moment I realized this was after I started getting my first meetings with major motion picture studios. And what I found with executives at these companies was they were all getting really tired of everybody's music beginning to sound the same. Everyone was trying to be John Williams or Hans Zimmer. And they really seemed to want something new from their composers. And that was the moment I decided to start leaning into the more unique parts of my musical personality. For instance, I grew up playing gospel music and a lot of Irish fiddle. Through college, I played in a Balinese gamelan ensemble. And I'm also a cellist by training, so I'm very good at writing for strings. And if you put all those elements together, you come up with a pretty fresh new sound. There's nobody else that quite sounds like I do now. And the moment I realized this was the moment my career went to places I never could have imagined. And people began to seek me out for my own sound. Again, I know it sounds cliche, but be yourself. Untruth number 3. You failed, now it's time to give up. I'm sure you've all heard a story like this. The first album didn't land well. You tried out or auditioned for a part and you didn't get it, and you tried to live in LA for 6 months and didn't get the big studio movie deal you were hoping for. And then comes the soothing words from friends and family. It's okay, you tried, now it's time to give up. I don't think there's any more dangerous or insidious words, even if well-intentioned, that can undermine an artist's career. In our culture, we have this idea that careers happen in these insta-success, overnight sensational ways. But that's a completely unrealistic and delusional way to think about any kind of career. Like every profession, a career in music or film requires time to find your footing, develop trust and relationships with other collaborators. For instance, I spend a lot of time in coffee shops, and over the years I've gotten to know several coffee shop owners. And several of them have told me something interesting. That in the first 4 to 6 years of business, they barely even turned a profit, and it took a lot of time for them to find their footing and grow in the community. So I guess my lesson for you is this: be like the coffee shop owner. Measure your career growth in larger time scales. It will take years. So my lesson for you, just give it a minute to grow. Untruth number 4, avoid rejection. As musicians, you are going to be rejected and burned more times than you think you can possibly handle. But I have good news for you. Rejection is also your best friend. So, for instance, if you are only trying out for a few projects at a time, you're not likely to ever win any of them. Now, if you're trying out for 50 or 100 projects a month, you're likely to walk away with at least a few. So on the one hand, you're putting yourself out to absorb a lot more rejection. On the other hand, you're also getting more work than you've ever had before. So my lesson is this: don't fear rejection, embrace it. Measure your success in rejections, not victories. Untruth number 5, play it safe. So when I was 12 years old, I met a hospice nurse, and we were at a dinner one night, and she told me what her job was. And she told me that something that always stuck with me, which was that most dying people tend to share a lot of the same regrets. And one of them was a real standout personally. She said a lot of people at the end realized they could have lived their lives in a more authentic or meaningful way, but they just didn't. They definitely had the time, often the resources and focus, but some excuse always got in the way, and they'd wish they'd done some things differently. And that night, I remember laying awake for quite a while, and I made this pact with myself that I would try to get away with designing as much meaningful direction in my life as I possibly could. And all I ever wanted was just unlimited time exploring creative space and writing as much music as I could. So what I vowed to do was design my life in such a way that I was optimizing the things that meant the most to me, how to create that space and flexibility to do what I do. And it actually means not living a normal life in most ways. A lot of people might look at my day-to-day life and be a little bit confused or terrified. I know a lot of people don't like to sacrifice weekends, or they may want a nicer car, they may want a house with a picket fence. And those may be things you have to give up in the pursuit of making room for something more meaningful for yourself. And my life certainly has its share of chaos in it based on what I do. But the idea is you optimize your living around what means the most to you and what you value the most. So I guess my lesson is this: take a lesson from a hospice nurse. You only live once, so make it count. Once again, I'm Chris Thomas, and those are my 5 great untruths. And I hope that you can learn from my mistakes.